Dead or alive, you're coming with me.
Wendy, I'm home.
I'm a vampire! I'm a vampire! I'm a vampire! I'm a vampire! I'm a vampire!
Go to hell and take your friends with you!
Carbon Day!
Huh?
No!
Get off my plane.
Remember Salomon that promised to kill you last?
That's what made you did!
I lied.
Okay, everybody, hello, and welcome to this very special episode. And by very special, I mean we don't really know what we're doing. we didn't plan for this at all. Mr. Smith is still not here. He's still off being a big shot comedian. So Phil from the Spook House podcast
Hello.
has very kindly agreed to come and chat some shit.
We are going to chat all sorts of shit. I don't know what we're going to talk about, but we're going to...
I've got some few bits, Why don't you start by telling people about your podcast?
So, the Spook House, it's about 4 years old now. It's a horror movie podcast. We're not breaking the mold or anything. We're two friends that break down movies and sometimes cover news. It's me and my co-host Doug, and try to put out an episode like every... I don't even know. I don't have a schedule anymore. It's just whenever we can do it.
Same.
I mean, ideally, once a week would be great, but, life and all that shit gets in the way. But yeah, it's just a horror movie podcast. Me and Doug have a lot of fun doing it, have a lot of laughs, but that's about it.
Awesome.
Nothing too special.
Cool. So, the first thing I think we should talk about is something that I meant to talk about on the news episode I recorded early today, but I just forgot because I never wrote it down. And that is Public Enemy #1, Ezra Miller.
Man, Ezra Miller has really kept your podcast in business. I remember one episode you were like, well, I guess this is the Ezra Miller show now.
Ezra Miller news to drink to, yeah. That's what we
Yeah.
named it. So The Flash is just premiered, and Ezra Miller was there at the Did you see the pictures of them at the premiere?
Yeah, I saw one picture. He kind of looked like a giant bird or something.
Yeah, I was going to say, even all the controversy aside, what do you think of the hair?
I mean,
I think
say what say what you will about Ezra Miller. He's got pizzazz. He's got style.
I don't
guess.
hate it. I don't hate this hair. It's kind of fire.
I mean, I couldn't pull it off, but good for him, I guess.
So he's there at the premiere, and all of Hawaii gives him the fucking side eye. And this movie's now out, I think, or it's been premiered. There are some reviews. It's got a 7.4. Are you interested in The Flash at all?
So, little back history on me. I kind of don't give a shit about new superhero movies. I do like Batman. Tim Burton's Batman. So that has me intrigued just because Michael Keaton is coming back, which is great. I will probably watch this one whenever it comes on streaming somewhere, but no.
Yeah, I'm not going to the cinema to see it.
Yeah.
I just know it's 2.5 hours long.
Oof.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oof. And The Flash is no one's favorite fucking superhero. Even people I know that are super into comic books, The Flash isn't anyone's favorite.
Yeah, and there was a 90s Flash movie, right? Or am I imagining this?
I believe so. There was a 90s Captain America movie, which stunk.
I never saw that one. I haven't seen any of the newer Captain America stuff. My co-host Doug loves superhero movies and Marvel stuff, and he gets so hyped about it. I'm like, how are you this hyped again? This is like the 38th Marvel movie this year. What are you so fucking hyped about?
Yeah, Lee's exactly the same. He fucking loves it. He's got the fucking t-shirts and everything.
And hey, no hate to anybody that loves it. I mean, it's just not for me.
If you can enjoy it in your 40s, that's fine to like kid stuff. But personally, I'm just a bit like, eh. But this, like you said, I'm a huge Batman fan, and it's pretty much the only reason I have any interest in watching this is because Michael Keaton is back as Batman.
Yeah.
Also, Ben Affleck is back as Batman, and is there another Batman in it? I don't know.
Wait, so Ben Affleck is Batman in this movie, or is he just Ben Affleck?
He's Batman. So this is
What?
like this Flash movie is like a multiverse thing, kind of like they did with Spider-Man.
Yeah.
So it's just all of the Batmen that are alive, which is I guess it's two of them. Robert Pattinson isn't in it though. I can tell you that.
I still haven't seen that one.
Oh, it's great if you like.
Really?
Yeah, I don't think it's for everyone. If you like long ass, kind of slow burning, very moody films, and like Batman, then definitely give it a shot. It's very atmospheric. It looks
Okay.
great. The music's great.
Nice.
It's very broody. I'm quite looking forward to the spin-off show, The Penguin. Colin Farrell's the best thing in that Batman film. He's incredible.
Nice.
Yeah,
Yeah. I
worth
saw
checking out.
Yeah, I saw pictures of Colin Farrell as Batman. I was like, oh, that's pretty fucking cool. But yeah, for some reason, it takes a lot for me. I can't even remember the last time I watched a superhero movie, other than like Mystery Men or something.
I love Mystery Man. I haven't
Me
seen that in
too.
ages. That's a
Yeah.
great film.
That's like
This. Sorry, go on.
no, I was gonna say that was like kind of underrated. Like nobody really talks about Mystery Men.
Yeah, it didn't make any money. It was like a massive failure. I think Ben Stiller directed it as well, didn't he?
I think so.
Yeah, it was not a hit, and
I loved
yeah.
it.
Yeah, it's great, but it has kind of been forgotten about. But it is hilarious. It's got a great cast as well. Hank Azaria's in it. One of Keenan and Kel. Jeffrey Rush. Eddie
Tom
Izzard's
Waits.
in it. Tom Waits is in it. Yeah, fucking hell,
Yeah.
I forgot all about that. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, this Flash thing, I'm surprised it's even been released with all of the Ezra Miller stuff. If you think that, like, you know, Warner Brothers are currently airbrushing Amber Heard out of Aquaman 2 because she shat on a bed or something. But it's hard to believe that they've gone, yeah, this is fine, and we're just going to stand by Ezra Miller after what did he do? He assaulted people at a karaoke bar because he didn't like their singing. He like threw a chair at someone, like a fucking wrestling match or something. He broke into some couple's room in a hotel and he stole like their wallets and passports. There's rumors of him grooming and like a cult. What the fuck?
I mean, I don't even think it was rumors, right? I mean, it was confirmed. He groomed a 14-year-old girl, flew her out to somewhere. I don't know. I don't know all the details on it, but I did watch a video covering the vast crimes of Ezra Miller, and I was like, holy shit. I mean...
Yeah, it's crazy.
But it's typical Hollywood privilege bullshit. So
is it typical? I mean,
kinda.
a lot of them. There's a lot of like privileged Hollywood stars that probably commit crimes, but on this level, and I was just looking actually his IMDb. I don't think it's got anything like in the works. Like after this, there's no like upcoming films.
Yeah, I can't imagine a big studio is gonna roll the dice on Ezra Miller again.
No, which is a shame because actually not a bad actor.
Yeah, he's not bad. I liked him in. Did you ever see We Need to Talk About Kevin?
I did. Yeah, that's a fantastic film.
It's a fucked up movie, but yeah, it is good.
Yeah, he was great in that. Yeah,
It's more like an autobiography of Ezra Miller when you think about it. I guess that was. I don't think he had to reach too far to play that role.
Yeah, we need to talk about Ezra. Yeah,
he's like, this is my Wednesday. I don't.
Oh wow. But yeah, I know that like they've spent loads of money on it, so they're hyping it up massively, and all this, and yeah. But I just don't. I don't care. Other than Batman, I don't care about this film. I certainly
Yeah.
don't care about fucking Ezra Miller.
Yeah, I feel like that's gonna take me out of it. Even when I watched the trailers, I was like, God, this fucking dipshit. Come on.
Also, Batman's only going to be in it for 10 minutes.
Yeah, hey, if somebody wants to make like a compilation of all the Michael Keaton stuff, I will gladly watch that.
I think that's just the trailer.
Probably.
I think they've put everything in the trailer. But that's just the Ezra Miller news I wanted to talk about. They went to the premiere, looked like a smug-faced twat. People got annoyed. The film's been released, and it's got some okay reviews, but it's not. They were saying before it came out this was going to be as good as The Dark Knight.
Yeah,
nah.
highly doubt that.
Yeah, but they had to say that because they really had to sell it, obviously. But it's not. It's not as good as the fucking Dark Knight. I mean, even now, as it's just released, it's got 7.4 on IMDb. They always go down after release, so this will end up at 6.5 probably.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Yeah,
what is your favorite Batman movie?
Shit, we ranked all of the Batman movies at some point last year, and I think what did I put number? Yeah, we both had The Dark Knight as number one.
Oh, wow.
Which sounds kind of obvious, but it just is the best. I think it's not just the best Batman film. I genuinely think it's one of the best films ever. The way it's put together, the pacing and everything. But Batman Returns was my number 2.
Yeah, that's my number 1.
It was close, but I ended up going with Dark Knight. But yeah, I fucking love Batman Returns.
Yeah, I caught a showing of Batman Returns a few months ago at a local theater. They were doing a just random screening of it, and I had never seen it on the big screen, and I was like, I mean, I've seen it many times over the years, but for some reason, when I saw it that time, I was like, this movie's darker than I remember.
Yeah, it's pretty messed up.
Yeah, all those scenes with the penguin, he's got blood coming out of his mouth, and
yeah, all that black shit.
Yeah,
it's a precursor to Frank from It's Always Sunny. Just this gargling, fat. I'll murder you momentarily.
Yeah, apparently toy companies were really upset when Batman Returns came out, including McDonald's and all that, because they want to put a Batman Returns Happy Meal toy in there, and they were like, what the fuck is this? This is supposed to be a kid's movie or something. This is
and
grotesque.
This is why Tim Burton didn't get to make the third one. Because Warner Brothers weren't happy with how gross it was, which is how we ended up with Batman Forever.
Ooh.
And all that shit. Yeah.
Hey, so it all worked out.
Yeah, definitely.
So was that when Tim Burton was making the Nicolas Cage Batman?
Superman. Shit.
Okay, that shows you how much I know. That's right. Superman.
They would go after his Batman 3 wasn't happening. They then started production on a Superman film with Tim Burton directing, starring Nicolas Cage, and somewhere on YouTube is a making of, but obviously the film was never made, and it's only 45 minutes long. I think it's it was made by a YouTuber, but it's really interesting, and there is footage of Cage in the Superman cape and all this shit.
I have seen that.
Yeah.
Just the test footage of him in the cape.
Yeah, and they spent millions on pre-production, and it never happened. And
Damn.
Cage walked away with something over $1 million for
Damn.
never playing Superman. Not bad going.
Yeah, I'll dress up as Superman for $1 million if somebody wants to pay me. Yeah.
Okay. How's that bullshit? What was the other thing I was going to ask you? What upcoming films, horror or otherwise, are you excited for? What's on your radar?
I'm kind of intrigued by that A24 movie Talk to Me. I think that comes out next month. Have you seen the trailer for that?
No, I've not even heard of it.
Yeah, check out the trailer after this, but it looks promising. It's
Okay.
basically like kids at a party fuck around with this Ouija board, but it's not a Ouija board. It's just it's like this hand thing, and they hold the hand, and I don't know. It's like a ghost type possession movie, but I don't know. It looks intriguing at the very least.
Okay.
Other than that, you know, there's really not a lot of heavy hitters coming out this year. I feel like last year there were so many new horror movies. I'm very curious to see how bad David Gordon Green's Exorcist is going to be. That comes out in October.
Oh, yeah.
And they recently had test screenings in New York, and it bombed. Like, not one person had a single positive thing to say.
Shit. Did David Gordon Green do the recent Halloween movies?
Yes, he did.
Okay.
Yeah. And I liked Halloween 2018 for the most part. Halloween Kills, Halloween Ends, like, just, I fucking hated it.
I genuinely liked Halloween 2018, and I know a lot of people didn't, but I actually enjoyed Halloween Kills. I just thought it was fun and stupid. I liked them, and I was actually really excited for Halloween Ends. Like, so excited, because I was like, okay, I kind of get this, what they're doing.
Mm-hmm.
I know that not everyone's on board with it, but I get what they're doing, and I'm enjoying it as like it's now as we go to the cinema at Halloween, we watch these dumb fucking films. I'm into it. So we're so excited for Halloween Ends. We're all big group of us going to go to the cinema, Halloween to see it. I got sick, I couldn't go, and there people
Might have
were
been
like,
for the best.
yeah, people were just like, oh man, like, don't waste your money. And I was like, come on, like, how, if it's following like the suit of the previous two,
Mm-hmm.
how bad can it be? And someone just sent me a link, and it was a stream, a download, a legal one.
Yeah.
I went, just watch this. Don't waste your money. Just watch it. And I was like,
Yeah.
okay. And I watched it, and I remember I was texting my friends, like, is this real? Like, is this actually happening? What the fuck?
Yeah, I texted Doug about, my co-host Doug, about 20 minutes into it, and I think I said this is shockingly bad, because I truly was shocked. I thought the guy that owned the theater was going to come in about halfway through and be like, "Hey, we got you. Here's the real movie."
Yeah. Oh yeah. So it was in disbelief. I was just like, this isn't happening, is it? Really?
Yeah.
What the fuck? What have they done? How have they done this? Why have you done this? What the fuck? Yeah, shockingly bad.
It does have a lot of defenders, though. I see a lot of
Really?
people that. Yeah.
I've not seen a one, but I think maybe you, in terms of social media, probably see more kind of horror-based stuff than what I do, as I've tried to kind of lean away from that as much.
Yeah,
more
that's
than what I
right.
used to. But
You guys used to be the Horror Tap.
we were. This podcast, for those that don't know, was originally called the Horror Tap, and it was just about horror movies.
Because I think we started around the same time, right?
Yeah, I think it was before COVID. I always remember that because so many people started a podcast during the pandemic, and a lot of people assumed it did as well. And it's like, no, it was before that. So
Yeah, I think it was like 2018 or something. Because we
Yeah.
started May or June of 2018, and I just remember us being friends on Instagram pretty early on and kind of chatting a bit back in the day. Yeah, so why the switch from the Horror Tap to movies to drink to?
It was basically when Lee joined. I realized that him and I had a something where we could kind of riff off of each other very easily and just laugh at everything. We could make a joke out of fucking anything. We did an episode on The Shining, and before we sat down to record, we were like, I don't know how this is going to go down because this movie is like super fucking serious, but somehow we ended up finding ways to make fun of it. And so it kind of got to a point where there was, I think it all came down to like an Arnold Schwarzenegger movie, Commando. Where I was like, I want to do Commando, but it's not a horror movie. And horror is in our fucking name.
Yeah.
So I just was like, how do you guys feel about just changing the name and then covering other stuff?
Mm-hmm.
Still like in the kind of wheelhouse of like trashy 80s kind of schlocky, cheesy action movies, trashy horror movies, stuff like that, but just not exclusively being horror. And then that kind of opens things up to wider possibilities of anything. You can watch any movie and you can sit there and think, you know what, I reckon we could easily make fun of this and make a good episode. Doesn't matter. We just did The Little Mermaid, for fuck's sake. Because
Nice.
we can now. So yeah, it was just a move to.
And you can still do horror movies. So.
Yeah, exactly. I want to at some point get back to doing some like old 50s B movies because those are a lot of fun. They're so fucking stupid. But actually, the last thing I had written down, which we'll lead into the rest of this episode probably, just talking about just podcasting. Why did you start a podcast?
Ooh.
I know when, but why?
Well, such a naive idea. Like, hey, this will be nothing but smooth sailing and be super fun. And it is. But, well, it was me and my old co-host, Jason. We were at the movies, and I was having a beer after the movie with him, and I was like, let's, do you want to just start a podcast? He was like, yeah, fuck it. Because he was doing a trauma movie podcast at the time.
Okay.
And so I knew he had a little bit of experience. So I was like, we can riff on movies just like everybody else. Let's give it a shot. And our first episode was Killer Clowns from Outer Space. I was fucking terrified. Yeah, that's kind of just where it started. And 4 years later and over 110 episodes, still doing it.
Nice. Actually, one of the reasons we're called Movies to Drink To is because when we started, I was so scared. I used to drink. I'd get drunk before we recorded.
I used to do that as well. And I thought, like... So I used to think, I'm at my best when I'm like 4 beers deep. I'm funnier, I'm more quick-witted. If I go back and listen to some of those early episodes, I'm like, good God, you sound fucking drunk. I'm like, yeah, man, this movie is blah, blah, blah. I'm like, oh. So I don't drink. Actually, I've really kind of rarely drink at all, like at least for this year. For some reason, it's just kind of naturally happened. But if I'm doing like a watch along or something, I'll drink. But as far as, just regular episodes, I try to do it just, clear-headed as possible.
We used to drink pretty much all the time because we'd always record either on a Friday night or like a Saturday night. And then I think still now we'll have like a beer or something. But when Lee joins, I remember telling him we've got like one rule, and it's basically you can drink, but you can't be drunk.
Yeah.
Because you are not as funny as you think you are when you're pissed off. You might think you're hilarious, but you're not.
And hungover recording, no.
I've never done it.
I've never done it. Well, I know that like I'm not going to be at my best self if I'm fucking hungover, and I care that people are taking time and tuning in, because think about the endless amount of content out there. Like if they're tuning in to my little dumb podcast, I want to try to do my best. So yeah, being hungover, no, that sounds like a nightmare.
Yeah, I've never done it hungover. I've noticed before that obviously when now it's moved into a more narrative kind of script-based thing. So a lot of what I read is a script, and then like with jokes kind of thrown in if I think of them, and obviously Lee's throwing jokes in. But there is very much a script to the show, and if I've had like 2 or 3 beers, I can't fucking read as well. And it just becomes a nightmare, and I can hear it when I'm speaking. Like I'm fucking slurring my words a bit. Like, oh, this is dog shit. So yeah, it's gone from sort of just when you start and you're scared, it's like let's just get drunk and it'll be fun, right?
Yeah, I remember.
Seriously.
So like back in the day, me and Jason, we sometimes would have to record on like, oh, well, Monday or Tuesday is the only night we can record. And I'm like, oh, fuck, I don't want to drink on a Monday. Be like, can we push it to Thursday at least? Or
I recorded with Lee hungover once. He wasn't too bad, but you could tell like he was still a bit drunk from the night before, because we were recording at like midday. The day after he'd gone out on like a huge bender, and it was just like, "Are you okay, man?" Like, looking over.
Well, it happens, you know.
Yeah, these things happen. But we had like issues with. We had an episode that was so fucking bad, I deleted it. I don't know if you've ever deleted. Yeah, I don't know if you've ever done that, but
actually, yeah, pretty recently.
Oh shit.
Well. Kind of a little backstory. Me and Doug were fine, but the person we had on the show who was drunk at the time, he just basically came off like an elitist dickhead. And 20 minutes into it, in my mind, I was like, there's no fucking way I'm releasing this. Because I could tell that Doug was like, what the fuck is this guy's problem? And I'm like trying to hold it together, like, okay, next topic. And I texted Doug after, and I was like, dude, I don't know what the fuck that was, but don't worry, we're not putting that out. That was really bad.
Did you tell the guy?
I
mean, I'm assuming he must have realized after it didn't get published.
He texted me the next morning and was like, hey, dude, it's probably best that we don't release that episode. Yeah, I was a little drunk, and I don't think Doug was really feeling me. And it was like, wow.
Correct.
Yeah, like implying that it was Doug's fault, but no, sir, you were a fucking asshole, and I should probably stop talking about that. I'll tell you more about this after we record.
Okay. We had a
bit of a long story.
But our episode, it was published and it was up for like a while. Like, I only deleted it, I think, last year. So it was up for like 2 or 3 years. And it was one of those things that I just forgotten about. This is back when it was the Horror Tap, and there were 3 of us. So it was me, Lee, and another guy called Lee, which is why Lee is often referred to as Mr. Smith, because to save confusion. But the original Lee, he showed up to record 2 hours late with like no excuse, and he was drunk.
Oof.
And he's not a good drunk, and it wasn't fun, and it was like, oh no. And when I eventually summed up the fucking courage to go listen back to it, like 2 years later, I instantly deleted it. Because not only was he drunk, and he's not a fun drunk, he's a fucking awful drunk. You could hear in my voice that I fucking hate him. Like that I wanted to jump across the table and strangle him. Yeah. And it was just like, this has got to go. This is nobody wants to fucking hear this. This is just unbearable.
Now I kind of want to hear that episode.
Unfortunately, you can't. It's been deleted. There are some other older Horror Tap ones where there was like tension, which is why there's only 2 of us now, because there was decisions had to be made, and this is obviously when you start a podcast and you don't know what the fuck you're doing, you kind of. I guess like with you and Jason, it's just like, hey, you want to do it? Yeah, sure, let's do it. But you might not really know that person that well, and the next thing you know, you're kind of in this thing with them, this like kind of creative thing. It's like being in a band.
Yeah.
And then you kind of think, actually, imagine being in a band, then you find out that like your friend that said he could play bass can't actually keep time.
Right.
Maybe he needs to go. So
yeah,
it was this that kind of showing up late drunk and just kind of being incredibly disruptive to the process. And I think a lot of it didn't actually make it to air because I used to cut out a lot of shit. And then it got to a point where I was kind of miserable. I hated fucking doing it because it was like, oh, here we go again. It's just going to be this same bullshit. And Lee currently had only just sort of started like a few months in. And I was kind of like, not really enjoying it, kind of miserable. And then after we'd finished recording, we went to a bar and it was just me and Mr. Smith currently. Mm-hmm. And God bless him. He turned around to me to have like a quiet word and kind of said, what's that guy's fucking problem? Like, what? And I was like, right? I didn't realize that he was feeling the same way about it as I was, but we were too kind of scared to kind of call out the elephant in the room. And so it just kind of went from there. And we basically ended the show. It was like, I don't want to do this anymore, and just ended it. And didn't do anything for like 4, maybe 5 months, and then just about the message like, hey, I want to do this again, but without you. And that's where we've gone from there. Basically, it's just 2 of us.
Do you still keep in touch with that guy?
No, he so basically we did. I didn't, it wasn't, he took it fairly well, considering how kind of sensitive of an individual he is. But then there were some personal things where, long story short, he owed me some money. And then he was kind of dicking around about paying me back. And I just said, I didn't like threaten him. I just kind of said like, you gotta fucking pay it.
Yeah.
So he did pay it. And then he like blocks me on everything afterwards. And he seemed to sort of take that as kind of like a personal insult. And that's when I realized, like, you're basically a fucking man-child. So it was like, so no, I don't speak to him anymore, thankfully. But yeah, it was just fucking, it's just, do you ever have like that friend that you wish you didn't fucking know because they just kind of drag you down?
Funny you
at some point everyone will have a friend that you're like,
yeah,
why the fuck am I friends with you?
Yeah, it's a bad situation if you're gonna hang out with somebody in a few days, and in the days leading up to it you're like nervous because you're like, what's gonna happen this time? Is this gonna be the time I finally slap the shit out of this guy? Or yeah, I know what you mean. Those people are, you just gotta cut them out of your life. And
yeah, it's kind of like it's like a drain.
Yeah.
It just, you end up, they're kind of at like rock bottom forever for some fucking reason. They can't ever get their shit together. And they just seem to kind of drag everybody down with them. You're like, no, I don't want to hang out with you. And where we used to record, I moved out. I was living there with this old guy, and I moved out. And the first time we went back to record was about a month later. So a month, hadn't been in this flat. We walked in there, and it was like a bomb had gone off. It was so fucking... I'm talking like pizza boxes everywhere.
Oof.
Dinner plates being used as ashtrays.
Ooh.
It stunk of weed.
Fuck.
And it's like you're walking in to record, like... I hate
Yeah.
to sound like a prissy artiste, but I can't record here. This is terrible.
Hey,
What
I would
the
do the
fuck is
same, man.
like, ew.
I can deal with things being a little messy, whatever, but filth? Like pure filth like that? No. Fuck that.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I can deal with like untidiness, but yeah,
Sure.
actual dirt. You can probably see behind me, things are untidy. You can see the other side of this camera. This desk is just full of so much stuff. But yeah, actual like filth and stuff.
Yeah.
Ugh, no. So yeah, that's where we've been going since. Just me and Lee, and it's going all right.
Hey, man, I love the podcast. I've had many mornings while I'm eating breakfast and drinking my coffee. I sit there and watch it on YouTube. Have a great fucking time.
Oh,
Like
good.
you guys have a good, you have good banter back and forth, and I enjoy it. So.
Yeah, that's something I think that I don't know how it works with you and Doug, but it's like when me and Lee got together, we never sat down and were like, okay, here's how we're going to format the show. It just kind of happened organically,
Yeah.
and that kind of storytelling thing, just kind of retelling the film, but the stupid version with jokes, that just kind of started happening for some reason, and then it was like, okay, then let's actually write that then, and then we throw in jokes. So I don't know. Yeah, there was no like plan. It just happened.
Yeah, so that's what me and Jason used to do. We would both watch the movie and take our own separate notes, and I would sort of kind of like what you do, like then this happens, and we take little detours along the way. But I found that for me personally, doing it that way, it started to become pretty daunting, because I would have like just notebooks full of, it worked in a way, but once Doug joined the show, we work better if it's like, hey, we're talking about the final chapter today. Go. And we just riff and go on. We don't have like a script or anything. It just sort of naturally happened that way, because with Doug, if you've ever listened to the show, he never runs out of things to say, and that's why I love him. So, yeah, I think it's for the best that we do that now. But I would like to do some episodes where we do break down scene by scene and really dive into the movie, kind of the way you guys do now. Because I do kind of miss that format sometimes.
I think our kind of notes used to be a lot. Well, mine. I don't know what the fuck Lee writes down, to be honest with you. I've never looked at it. He just has like a little pad, and he just kind of glances at it once in a while. Whereas now, mine's like a fucking script, and it takes me like 3 evenings to get through a 90-minute movie, because I have to pause it and literally write out what's happening, but in a sillier, but like it's like rewriting the fucking story basically. Yeah. And then I have to pause it and find out what this character's called, and then I have to. Then sometimes if I think of a joke, I'll like put a note under that to remind me of that joke. And sometimes I forget what that note is referring to, and I'm like, Whereas before, when we were trying to do it and the notes were a bit more kind of loose, there would be a lot of kind of looking at my notes going, oh yeah, that thing. So then this happens, whereas I find it easier just to have that script to basically to help like the flow of the show essentially. Yeah. So I know where it starts, I know where it fucking ends, and everything in the middle is there, and then obviously there's like tangents and bits which aren't scripted, and that's fine, whatever. Those are usually the funniest bits, to be fair. But yeah, it's gone from kind of loose note taking, on my part anyway, to more like a script, which is, I think personally it helps me. I'm not amazing at going into like something where I was like, okay, I've got this film to talk about, and I've got some vague notes, and hopefully I'll remember all those jokes I made in my head whilst watching it, and then 9 times out of 10 I don't. So yeah, it helps me.
Yeah, I guess it's whatever works for each person, you know? By the way, I hope people are actually interested in all this podcasting talk. I don't know if that's something people would be interested in, but you came to me with the idea, like, let's do a podcast about podcasting. And I was like,
I think it's, number one, I don't really get to talk to anybody about it. I don't have any fucking friends that make podcasts. I don't know.
Same here.
I've got, obviously there's like yourself and some other people like on social media that do it. But like in real life, I don't have any friends that make a podcast.
Some of my best friends have never even listened to my podcast.
Yeah, same.
Yeah. I asked one of my best friends, we've been friends for like 20 years. And one day about a year ago, I was like, have you ever listened to an episode of my podcast? He was like, yeah, but like I'm not really a horror kind of guy. I was like, yeah, I know, but have you ever just been like curious? I feel like I would. Like,
yeah.
If he had a podcast about something I didn't care about, like, I don't know, cars or something, like, whatever.
Yeah.
Like, that's not my thing, but I would tune in and see what it's about.
I remember struggling to get my sister to follow the Instagram page. It was like, and she was like, I don't listen to your podcast. It's like, you don't have to. Just follow the page. Just for the numbers. Like, just, like, come on. Yeah, I know those people that, like, it's not a thing that I get to talk to people about, and I don't think a lot of people know that it's quite a bit of work. And I know it sounds like a real cliche, that kind of like, podcasting's harder than you think. Well, it is.
Yeah, I guess it depends, like, what your goals are for the podcast. Is it something you just want to occasionally do and fuck around and have some laughs? And if so, that's fine. But are you trying to, like, grow it year over year and get better in every area? I think those are things that people need to talk about when they have that naive idea of, hey, let's start a podcast. Because people don't really think about that, and they also don't think about who's gonna do all the editing and all of that type of stuff. And that's why if you go on Instagram, there's just a graveyard of horror podcast, you know? Like, these people put out 8 episodes and they haven't posted in 2 years.
Yeah.
Because right around that point, they're like, oh, this is like, you have to dedicate hours of your day and you're not getting paid to do it. I mean,
like, I'm not famous. What's going on? I've put out like 3 episodes. Come on. How come I'm not Logan Paul already? What the fuck?
I can't tell you how many times, I've had a long day of work. I come home and I'm like, oh, fuck. I got to put my headphones in and edit this episode. The last thing I want to hear right now is the sound of my own dumb voice, but you got to.
It is a lot of... Yeah, because obviously, like you said, I have a full-time job, and so let's say Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, maybe Friday, I'll spend watching a movie and writing it, and then Friday night we record, sometimes maybe Saturday, and then the rest of that week, the next week, Monday to Friday, is editing it. I have to edit the audio, and obviously we put it on YouTube now and include stills and clips of the film that we're talking about, which involves screen grabbing bits of film and then adding that to our video. And so that can sometimes I can do it in like 2 evenings. Sometimes it'll take me like a whole fucking week. It depends how I'm feeling. And then you're doing it again So it's like a 2-week process, basically.
Yeah, next thing you know, you're already taking notes for the next movie. And
Yeah.
so me and Jason, we would put out episodes once a week pretty consistently. And looking back, I probably should have maybe not been as strict on no, we gotta do one episode a week because that's what you do. Even though it started to become a real grind just for those reasons. And I think it started to wear down both of us. That's, I think, part of the reason why he quit. But
So he quit, did he?
oh yeah, yeah. I didn't fire him or anything, you know.
Right. He just went, I don't want to fucking do it anymore.
Basically, yeah. I mean, look, I don't have any hard feelings towards Jason. But I could tell a month before he quit, I was like, something's off here, because he found out he was having a kid, and I think maybe that had something to do with it. I don't know.
That'll ruin your life.
But he would just make remarks just things kind of implying that, oh, well, you don't want me as a co-host. You should find somebody else. And I'm like, what are you talking about, man? And I was like, in the back of my head, I was like, I think does he want to quit? And then he showed up one day. We were going to do a Scream 3 watch along, and say we were going to record at 2 p.m. He shows up at 2 o'clock, and he's like, oh, by the way, I gotta head out in an hour and 20 minutes to go pick up my fiance. And I was like, well,
Isn't that movie 2 hours?
yeah. I was like, I didn't know what to say. I wasn't mad at him. I didn't start cursing at him or anything. I was just like, dude, we literally don't have time to do that. Why wouldn't you just tell me that? And I was dude,
why show up?
Yeah, I was like, we can't do it. I don't know what you want me to say. I was frustrated, but I was like, dude, just go home. We'll try again next week. Whatever. And then about an hour later, I get a text message saying, hey, man, I don't want to do the show anymore, blah, blah, blah. And this was late September, and we're a horror movie podcast. That's like quitting a football podcast a week before the Super Bowl. Yeah, So I was pretty bitter about that, and I was also scrambling because I'm like, what the fuck? The Halloween season's coming up, and I don't know what to do. My co-host just quit. And then I put out a video explaining why he left, and I don't think he was too excited about that, and I don't blame him. I wouldn't be either. Yeah, but I haven't talked to him since then. It's been 3 years now.
Yeah,
but
how did you find Doug then? Because he said he lives in New York.
Yeah. So after Jason quit, there were about 15 or so episodes of me bringing on different guests or just friends. And I really like those episodes because I got to talk to singers from a couple of my favorite bands, like the singer of Chimera, metal band I grew up listening to. I was like, hey man, I know you like horror movies. Do you want to do an episode? So he did, and I was like, holy shit. And
Nice.
Another band, He Is Legend. I got to talk to Skylar, the singer of that band, and David Howard Thornton from Terrifier, Art the Clown.
Yep.
So I did stuff like that, and I messaged Doug one day just because I thought he was funny, the shit he posts on Instagram and stuff. I was like, this guy seems like he'd be a good guest to bring on. So we did, and it went really well. And then the next week, I was like, hey, I got this idea for an episode. You want to just come back on? And he did, and it just sort of kept going from there. And now we've done over 50 episodes together. And I'm very lucky to have him because he's a hilarious guy. He's one of my best friends. And I couldn't imagine doing the show without him. So it worked out for the best.
No, nice. Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah.
Is it, I don't know about how your dynamic works. if it's the same here. Is it like very much it's your show? Like,
Well,
do you do all of the? Do you make the decisions? Do you do all the editing?
well, as far as like the decisions, like, hey, what do you want to talk about this week? Me and Doug talk about all that. But I mean, as far as editing, doing the artwork, all of that, yeah, that's all me.
Yeah.
I actually kind of like creating the thumbnails and artwork because it allows me to be a little creative, and I like trying to get better at it.
I still suck at thumbnails and stuff. I still can't get my. I don't mind it, but like I'm still not very good at it.
Well, if you see anything that I've done that you're like, hey, how did you do that? I'd be glad to show you. It's pretty easy. Like some of the apps I use make that stuff really easy for dumbasses like me that have no clue about graphic design.
Nice.
But yeah, as far as, I hate saying it's my show. Like, it's me and Doug's show. Without Doug, if Doug quit tomorrow, I'd be like, you know what? I don't even know if I want to do this anymore and start over. So, no, I see it as 50-50 of it. Just as far as workload stuff, yeah, I do all that just because I always have. So it's not that big of a deal for me to do it.
See. Yeah, ours is... no, I think I said at the beginning, I kind of said at the beginning it's my show. I mean, like at the very beginning, I was just like, I had this, especially when there was three of us, I had this idea that everyone can have like an input, and Lee has input on terms of what we're gonna do and stuff. But I just felt like, and this might be me being like a bit of a megalomaniac, I was like, there has to be just one person that can veto everything, because there could be it's just a way of resolving issues really quickly. So like, I want to do this and I want to do that. Well, it's my decision and I say this and then it's done. And that was something I said at the very beginning, and luckily everyone was kind of on board with it. But I think that was because they knew nothing about producing and editing and mixing and anything like that. So they were just like, okay. And that's the way it's always kind of been. So yeah, I do all of the editing and the social media and the graphics, the thumbnail, and all that shit. Yeah, in terms of like what we're going to talk about, that's quite a 50-50 thing. Right. In terms of what films we're picking. Like even this evening, I had a message from Lee saying, we need to do the fucking Short Circuit movies. I was like, okay, cool. Like, I can't think I've seen them since I was a kid. That's that fucking Johnny Five
right, yeah.
thing. I was like, yeah. And I just messaged him back like, yeah, cool. Also, I was just thinking, how fucking stupid is that Forrest Gump movie? We should do that at some point. Because that movie is dumb as hell.
Yeah, and I don't want to burden Doug with, like, hey, you need to learn to edit and do all this. It's like, I've been doing it so long, it's just part of the process now. Like, it's not...
also, it's the same with, like, say, if you're a writer were to turn to Lee or Doug and say, we need you to learn to edit now, and you're going to have to do the next episode, because whatever. You know, from your own experience of editing, when you started, you were garbage. So you know that next episode won't be as good because they're just learning it. All these things that we learned how to do wasn't very good at them in the beginning.
Yeah, I think Doug would be a good editor because he makes his own music. He's like put out a few albums and stuff, so he's good with all of that stuff. But I mean, it's not that big of a deal. I can knock out the editing process of an 1.5-hour episode. It'll take me a good 2.5 hours probably, depending if it's well, you know how it is. Sometimes it's really smooth and the conversation is just really sharp, but sometimes there's lots of ums and lip smacks and random shit like that. Or you're trying to cut out this one part, but you can't get it to seamlessly flow, so you delete and retry it like 10 fucking times. You're like, oh
Yeah.
my God.
Yeah.
So,
I've had it before where I've had to try and cut something out. It's like, oh shit, but if I cut that out, because we talked over each other at that point, that means half of that bit's gone. And then, what the fuck?
yeah, a tip to podcasters out there. If you stumble over a word, kind of give a little hand signal to your co-host, like, I'm going to take that again, and just pick up where you left off, because it'll make the edit so much easier.
I've noticed I do that when I'm reading the script. I'll stumble over a word, but sometimes I won't take a beat to
Right.
repeat it.
Yeah.
I'll just say like, and then he went to sort of, and then I just all of a sudden I've kind of squished together my mistake and my correction, and it's like, oh fuck, there's no breath between what I've just fucking done. Why did I do that? It's because I panicked.
Yeah, I mean, I've definitely done that many times, and that's just part of it, I guess. So where do you want your podcast to go? I mean, like, as far as a year from now, do you have like any... Yeah, or like...
I think a year from now it won't be much different, if I'm being honest. But I think when we got rid of the original Lee and we bought new mics, and me and Mr. Smith, we kind of said to each other, okay, we want to now we kind of have a fresh start here. So let's start kind of putting more effort into this. It's not just a dicking around thing anymore. We'd like to actually, because we enjoy it.
Right.
So let's try and push it as hard as we can, so that maybe one day we can make some money doing something we enjoy. So that's kind of the goal. There's been times where I've kind of forgotten that a bit, and I've gotten a little bit lazy with it.
Mm-hmm.
I started another podcast, another YouTube channel at one point, and I was doing both, and I was like, I can't do both.
Mm-hmm.
And I kind of neglected the show a bit for like a few months, and I was like, I don't have the time to do both. It's ridiculous. So I just had to kind of, okay, I got to pick one.
Yeah.
And I went with this because this is what I enjoy more, even though it's not as like successful as what the other thing was. But like, it was like, well, this is just, it's more enjoyable. I like doing this. So put the focus on this, and you know, if I never make a penny doing it, all right, okay.
Oh, I've given up on that long ago.
I still enjoy doing it. It's still, yeah, like I said, we've been doing this way about as long as you have now.
Yeah.
Never made a fucking penny, and still doing it. So we must like it, right?
Have you thought about doing Patreon?
No, because I have nothing to offer people in terms of.
Oh, sure you do.
You know, to me it kind of feels like if people are paying this Patreon or whatever, then they're gonna want like you know, a bonus. They're gonna want something for that, a bonus episode or something, and that's having to spend more time creating something else. And I was like, I don't have the fucking time to do that, and I feel like I'd be kind of kind of ripping people off a bit. Like, hey, give me money. I won't do anything more because I ain't got the time. But give me money anyway. It didn't. I don't know. It doesn't quite.
I know what you mean.
Yeah. It's,
that's kind of what's been. So we do have a Patreon, but I haven't uploaded anything to it since Jason was the co-host, and we still have a few people that chip in like $5 a month, which is great. Thank you if you're happen to be listening to this. But me and Doug do want to start doing more Patreon stuff. Like, doesn't even have to be horror related. Like, hey, we're gonna watch old WWF Royal Rumbles tonight. Come join us as we watch this and talk shit. Or I don't know. I mean, we've kicked around a lot of ideas, but like you, it's just a time thing. And if I'm being completely honest, I really need to kind of kick myself in the ass a little more and be like, maybe try sticking to a schedule and planning stuff out.
Yeah, same.
Because if I don't, I'll just be like, kind of like right now, 2 weeks have gone by and we haven't put out an episode. And I'm like, oh shit, we got to put out something. You know?
Yeah, this is the problem is timing when you have a full-time job and you're trying to do this as well. Like, oh Christ, there's only so much you can do. And then when you do get some free time, it's like, maybe I don't want to do anything. Maybe I don't want to do anything. Maybe I want to just watch a fucking film and just watch a film.
Right.
And not have to write fucking notes on it or anything like that. And just, I was doing streaming video games for a bit, and I got sick of it because I was like, I just want to play the fucking game. I don't want people talking to me whilst I'm trying. Like, I'm enjoying this game. Like, maybe you should go left. Hey, fuck off. Just let me enjoy the game. I get that's the entire point of like Twitch is to have like the chat, but it's just like, actually, you know what? Go away. Leave me the fuck alone. Just let me play this fucking game.
Yeah.
But yeah, trying to find that time and scheduling, and it's becoming a bit more difficult, obviously, as Lee's kind of stand-up thing takes off and he does more and more gigs. But I always said, if you can't do it, then we don't do it. I never wanted to like stress anybody out by saying you have to be here Friday to record this because because no one's getting paid to do this. Yeah. So that was kind of a thing from the beginning, was like, hey, if you don't want to do it, we don't do it. Like, if you're not feeling it, if you don't feel like sitting in front of a microphone for 2 hours for whatever reason, then just say so and we don't do it. Because like I said, you're not paying them. Can't make them come if they don't want to do it. That's it.
Yeah, me and Doug are kind of in the same boat. So he works at a really successful music venue in New York, the Paramount Theater. So they have shows all the time. So he works late, so pretty much at least 5 nights a week most of the time. He's like, yeah, I got a show until 10 o'clock or whatever. And by that point, I'm fucking tired. And I'm like, well, maybe we can try in a few days, or sometimes we'll record during the day. I mean, we've recorded as early as 9:30, 10 a.m. before, which is kind of fun. But I mean, it just comes down to lining up schedules. That's another thing, is just finding the time. Like, hey man, what's your schedule look like this week? What does mine look like this week? And just, it's like, okay, we got this sliver of time on Thursday. Let's do it then.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's another thing, potential podcasters, scheduling, it's always a fucking nightmare.
And yeah, even if you get sick, that's a whole other thing. And like I said, some days you just don't want to fucking do it. It sounds weird, but there's been days where, but not so much anymore, but there were days in the past where it's like, I just don't feel like it today. I get that. I'm just not up for it, I don't think it's going to be very good.
Yeah. Do you, this might be a bit personal, but do you struggle with mental health, depression, that type of stuff? Because I do. And I've had issues with anxiety in the past.
Not so much anymore. The reason the show actually the reason I started a podcast, believe it or not, was because my anxiety was so bad at one point I couldn't work. And for that brief period of time where I couldn't work, I've kind of discovered that I don't have any fucking hobbies. I don't have any hobbies. I don't do anything. And so I went, let's start a podcast, which seems completely crazy, but so is anxiety. And that's how it became a thing. Believe it or not, Lee's anxiety, and he talks about this a lot, is way worse than mine. And this is, a guy that gets on stage and does it live, and stuff like that. So yeah, it's never really. I I asked Lee about it once in the beginning, saying like, you know, with your anxiety and stuff, is this ever like a problem to like do this? And he went, no, actually, no, it's not. He said like, it's never been an issue. It's totally fine. Like, I have panic attacks at work and shit, but doing this, it's no issue. I'm like, oh, right, wow. Because I've had fucking panic attacks in the middle of recording, but nobody would know. It was one of those like internal things where all of a sudden you get like the tunnel vision,
Right.
and you're like, just why? Oh fuck, they're still talking. I have to say something now, and that's not happened in a long time. But yeah, it's I've never really been like probably depressed, but yeah, there's definitely been times when you're just like, I don't want to fucking do it.
Yeah, I get that.
And there's been times, I don't know if you get this, when I've been like in the middle of editing and I've just had to stop because I can't stand the sound of my own fucking voice.
All the time, yes.
And I'm like, I'm watching it and counting it up. I'm like, this is shit. You're not funny. What the fuck? You sound like a broken robot. This is terrible. And I just had to like fucking walk away from it for like a day. And then before I could come back to it. It's a horrible thing to have to edit yourself.
Yeah, no, I totally get that. I've done that many times. And while I'm editing an episode, I'm always like, same thing. I'm like, who the fuck wants to listen to this? This is awful. But after I put out the episode and I listen back to it, I'm like, okay, well, this is pretty good. I mean,
yeah, I guess it's the difference between just like seeing it when it's done, and the process of having to go through it like with a fine tooth comb and kind of nitpick yourself. And you'll stumble over a word or you'll cough, and I'll be listening, whilst editing, and I'll say something, and then when it's on video, it's worse. Like Lee will be talking, and I'll notice that whilst he's talking, I'll kind of like just kind of look off with my eyes and give a weird look, and I'm like, what the fuck are you doing? Like, what's wrong with you? Why have you done that? Or I'll do like this twitch thing with my neck because I got like a stiff neck, and Lee will be talking, and I'm pretty sure that everybody watching is looking at him because he's the one talking, but all I see is me going like that. And think, what's wrong with you, man?
Yeah, I mean, we all have those little things like that. It's just weird tics or whatever. But
yeah, it's just, I guess the things that like you never really notice them until you start having to pay attention to yourself.
yeah,
When you're walking, you're like, oh god, is that what my face looks like? Jesus Christ.
yeah, some of that stuff you got to make peace with pretty early on. Like, okay, I sound like a dumbass. Get over it. Just put it out there.
Yeah.
I mean,
The
it
fact
is
that
what it is.
Yeah, the fact that anybody listens kind of proves you wrong. But I think, I'll still do it when editing. Probably as long as I am editing, I'll still be like, oh, fucking idiot. And I'll still hate it. But it is what it is. Yeah, you just kind of got to get used to it. And get used to the sound of your own voice, which, unless you're insane, everyone hates the sound of their own voice.
Yeah. God, we're so doom and gloom about podcasts over here. Okay.
Yeah, don't start one. It's like, if you're listening and you're thinking about it, don't. Plus, we don't need the competition. Just don't do it.
There's not enough horror movie podcasts out there. The world needs more.
Even if you only make 8 episodes, we need more horror movie podcasts.
Well, I know I'm like kind of bitching and moaning, but I don't want it to be all negative. I mean, this podcast it's quite literally changed my life in a lot of ways. I mean, some of my best friends today I met through the podcast, and including Doug. And I've gotten to do like horror conventions and stuff and meet people that listen to the show, and that's really fucking cool. And I know how much podcasts mean to me. Like, I'm sure you have your favorites as well. If you're having a shitty day and they put out a new episode, it brightens your day a little bit, So
yeah, sure. Yeah.
So if we can do that for people a little bit, I mean, that's fucking great. Because I mean,
Yeah.
people listen to the show, and I have a lot of people I talk to all the time that really enjoy it, and that means a lot. You know, if I can brighten somebody's day in a little, some kind of way, if that's me and Doug talking shit about Malignant or whatever, then happy to do it.
Yeah, it is, but even though we, you don't get any money for it, if you just get like a fucking message from somebody, or somebody says like, "Oh, I listened to your podcast; it was really funny." It's kind of like, I'm not gonna say it makes it all worth it, but it is. It definitely kind of it brightens your day a bit, and you're like,
Yeah.
it's not totally shit. All right, I made something, I created something, and it wasn't awful, and that's a pretty cool feeling. And it makes you, especially, once you've gone through the, watching the film and making the notes, recording, and then editing, you've gone through the whole fucking process, and then one person's like, "Yeah, that was really good." It makes you, you get a little bit proud. It's like, good for me. I made that.
Yeah, like once the episode is out there and, you've uploaded it, done the episode description, thumbnail, YouTube thumbnail, get it all uploaded, create the Instagram post, make the caption, share it in the stories, share it here and there, make some clips. It's a lot of fucking work, but once it's all done, it is a rewarding feeling, especially when you get positive feedback from it.
Yeah, it's just like, it's you sort of feel proud that you've created something pretty much entirely on your own, apart from like your one other mate. But you've done that, and you've contributed something to whoever the fuck is listening to it. Actually, I was going to ask you, does it bother you when you hear like really successful podcasts and they're terrible? And I mean like, so I was scrolling through the dreaded TikTok today, and there was a clip of some podcast. I don't know what the fuck it was called, but this podcast was like produced by other people. They had professional equipment. They clearly had a producer. They're in a studio. They had an editor, and they were the two fucking dumbest people I've ever seen in my life talking. This guy just banging on about how skin cancer was a myth because it never existed back in the old days, and I think it was made up by the sunscreen companies. And he's just saying this dumbass thing incredibly loudly, and you're thinking, this guy makes probably quite a good living out of this.
Yeah. Well, no, I totally know what you mean. I have heard some podcast, and for example, I've only listened to one episode. Maybe I should give it another shot, but Last Podcast on the Left.
I love that show.
See, the episode I listened to, I was like, maybe I just don't like know the personalities, but this is pretty bad. I mean, this was many years ago. Maybe I should give it another shot, and that's not feel bad like calling somebody out, but I don't know. I always hear that name come up when people talk about their favorite podcasts, and I was like, really? This? Maybe I just don't get it. I don't know.
They're a pretty good example of what you can achieve in terms of podcasting, in that they started out like this, very DIY, and some of their early episodes, if you go back, like now, it's really good. Has been for the last few years.
Okay.
The research, basically, since that podcast became their job, it's gotten really good. But if you go back to when they were kind of doing it part-time, they all had other jobs.
Mm-hmm.
It's not great. There's if you go really far back, quite frankly, it's fucking dreadful.
Including my podcast as well.
Yeah, I was going to say,
don't go way back.
You don't have any podcast. But yeah, they're a good example of what you can achieve and what more you can get done when you don't have a fucking job to worry about. Like when it is your job,
right.
Like their their quality increased so much once they kind of started doing it as their job. I love it. There's some dud episodes. I'm not, they cover true crime, but they also cover a lot of like UFO stuff. I like the true crime stuff. I like the history stuff. They're currently doing a series on the Manhattan Project, which I find really interesting. But when they start going on about like cryptids and UFOs, I don't find that interesting because it's all just, it's a conspiracy and there's no proof behind any of it. I guess interesting, but
Yeah.
So there's, I'd say yes, I like that show, but there's also plenty of episodes of theirs I won't bother listening to.
Okay, well, maybe I need to give it another shot. Hopefully I didn't piss anybody off. Like, hey, I love that show. I mean, maybe I just listened to the wrong episode or I was in a bad mood or something.
Many people, it's an incredibly popular show.
Well, I think the podcast market is just so oversaturated right now because how long have you been listening to podcast?
You know what? Probably not that long. 5,
really,
6 years. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I don't. For a long time, I didn't listen to a lot of podcasts because I never seem to have the fucking time. Now it's a bit different because I managed to hook up my phone to my work van, so I can listen to podcasts all the live long day.
Yeah.
And now I'm at a point where I run out of podcasts to listen to. I got to find new ones to discover. But yeah, for a long time, I didn't listen to many, which is a mistake as a podcaster. You should listen to podcasts. You should listen to what a successful podcast sounds like.
Right.
And I didn't do that for a long time.
But so I was listening to, I know his show is a lot different these days and a lot of controversy, but I was listening to Joe Rogan back in like 2009 or 10, just because I've been a lifelong MMA fan. So
yeah.
I was like, oh, this fighter is talking to Joe Rogan for 2 hours. Let me listen to this. And it was the first time I was introduced to long form conversation like that.
Yeah.
I was like, this is really interesting. So yeah, I've been a podcast listener for a very long time. Like back in the day, it was hard to find people that I'd be like, hey, do you listen to any podcasts? They're like, what's that?
Yeah, now it's everyone's got a podcast.
Yeah, and for the record, I can't listen to Rogan anymore. It's a shell of what the show used to be. But
I've listened to one episode, and I found it kind of embarrassing. He was interviewing Professor Brian Cox. Do you know the English, and now we're looking at the stars, that guy?
I don't know him, but
he's an astrophysicist.
A
real one. And
yeah,
Joe Rogan had him on the show. He's very famous over here in England. And I was like, oh, fucking not Brian Cox the actor, Professor Brian Cox.
right.
So I was like, what the fuck is Joe Rogan gonna ask this astrophysicist? I'll check it out. And it was just fucking ridiculous. So Brian Cox is doing his thing. He's talking about the universe and the stars and the atoms and all this stuff. And he's obviously incredibly well educated. He's the head of astrophysics at Manchester University, or whatever his role is these days. And he's very eloquent. He's very well spoken, and he can speak in sort of layman terms, so you can understand it. That's why he's so popular. And he's saying all these things which are, beyond most people's kind of reckoning and thinking. And there's Joe Rogan. And then Joe Rogan will ask him a question. And Joe Rogan will say, like, hey, have you ever heard of, black holes inside of Mars? Or something as dumb as that. And Brian Cox is too polite to say the fuck you on about, so he just goes, I've not heard of that, no. Anyway, and it's just like, that was it for 2 fucking hours. Brian Cox says something intelligent, Joe Rogan says something dumb, and Brian Cox goes, I've not heard of that. That was it.
Yeah, that's part of the reason why I pretty much never listen to it these days. But back in the day, it was introduced me to a lot of new ideas and just, I don't know, kind of discovered different comedians and stuff through that. But yeah, I think there's just too many podcasts out there these days because now the celebrities have gotten into it. Like every celebrity has a podcast, and they can
irks me so much.
and they can afford to hire a producer to handle everything, and they just show up. And hey, no hate there. I wish I could do that. That would be great.
Yeah.
But I mean, does the world really need How You Livin' with Jeremy Piven? Do we really need that? Come on.
I haven't heard it, but I'm guessing no.
I haven't heard it either, and hey, no, it might be a good show. I don't know, but I was like, who the fuck needs this? Now
over here in the UK, we get it with every kind of C-list fucking celebrity that's been on a TV show now has a podcast, usually produced by the BBC. It's like,
yeah,
and now this new podcast from Stacey Dooley. It's all about farming in Argentina. Like, who the fuck wants to listen to that? Oh, but it's Stacey Dooley, so we'll give them money. And it's like, when you're a celebrity, you know, you're famous for whatever it may be, acting, singing, playing football. You've got your money, you've got your talent, but apparently that's not enough. Now I've got to have a podcast because I think that people want to hear me talk utter shit for 2 hours. And for some reason people do, simply because they're famous. The biggest gripe is fucking Harry and Meghan got paid, what's this, Prince Harry and Meghan Markle, got paid millions of dollars to make a podcast for Spotify. They made one episode.
Yeah.
And it was like, are you fucking serious? Something like $20 million for one fucking episode, and they just kind of gave up on it. I was like, Spotify, what the fuck are you doing? Instead of giving these two people that, quite frankly, aren't that interesting, $20 million to make a podcast, why don't you seek out current podcasts that are kind of DIY, that are making money, seek out 40 of them and give them $500,000 each and see what they can do with it. I think that's a better money, more well spent. It's like imagine you work for a record label and you go to a bar one night and there's a band playing, and this band are fucking incredible. No one knows who the fuck they are. Okay, they've got like 4 songs currently, but they're really great. You know, you guys are great. I'm gonna give you my number. You go back to your record label the next day and you say, hey, I've discovered this band. I think they're amazing. I think we should give them a chance. And the record label turns round and they say, no, we don't want to go with that band, however talented they may be, because Shaquille O'Neal wants to make an album, so we're going to give him all the money.
Right.
So, okay, but can Shaquille O'Neal sing? Doesn't matter. It's Shaquille O'Neal. He's already famous. We know it will sell.
Yeah.
But what if it's not any good? Fuck it. That's how I see celebrities doing podcasts.
Yeah, same sort of thing, because it's now like it's a revenue stream for celebrities. They know that they're famous enough that right away they'll get sponsorships and all that, and they can sell boner pills and mattresses and
basically not do any of the hard work.
Yeah, which by the way, I would gladly sell boner pills on the Spook House if somebody. Blue Chew, hit me up. I'll talk about it.
Yeah, same. I'll sell anything. If you pay me to sell it, I'll tell you it's great.
Have you looked into sponsorships or anything? Like, that's a world that I haven't really looked into it a whole lot.
No, because I don't think we have a big enough audience for anyone to want that would do it.
I think you have to prove that you have every episode has like a certain amount of downloads or something. I don't know the exact number. But...
Yeah, I mean, if in terms of like monetizing, no. If there was like I don't know, like a t-shirt company out there that's like, here, I'll give you guys a couple of free t-shirts. You mention it on the show. You wear them. Yeah, great. That's about the level we're at. Here's some free merch. Mention it on the show. I've gotten a few free t-shirts. I've worn them. I've posted pictures of my dad bod in them on fucking Instagram. That's about it. I don't think any kind of like I said, you've got to have those numbers, which without a marketing department, it's not really going to happen.
Yeah, I try not to really think about the numbers or whatever, because shit, I remember when we first started seeing that like one of our episodes hit 10 downloads. I was like, what? That's crazy. 10 people listen to that? Yeah. But it's not something I really, certainly not doing it for the download numbers or anything like that. But I mean, we have grown quite a bit over 4 years, so I'm happy with it. And I want to start doing like more YouTube exclusive content. Like, hey, I do like some unboxing videos of some cool shit that I buy, like VHS stuff, and I don't know. I just want to, or like movie location stuff, like go out and record stuff, and because that sounds exciting to me, like trying something new.
Yeah, so, if you've got the time, you might as well. YouTube's I mentioned to you earlier, I think we get more views now on YouTube than what we get like listens on Spotify. And stuff. That might be down to the fact that we try and kind of we'll take clips of what's on YouTube. We'll put that on social media. That goes on TikTok and Instagram and even shorts on YouTube. And so there is now like a visual element. And I think for one thing about our show that people seems to sort of drive people away is they'll go, well, I haven't seen that film, so I don't want to listen to that or watch the thing on it. And I always say, you don't need to have seen the fucking film. We literally tell you the film. Yeah. And in arguably a more entertaining way than some of these movies. But I think that visual element that we have now on YouTube with screenshots and the clips, it helps some people that haven't seen the film and want to visualize more what we are talking about. So when I say Sarah in Friday the 13th Part 4, there is now a picture. They now, watching it, they know what Sarah looks like and they can picture that character in their head as we go through the story. So it's kind of, it's not an ideal situation to be in for a podcast where I wouldn't say we needed a visual element, but I think for some people that visual element definitely helps.
Yeah. How do you pull all that footage, by the way?
Illegally.
Okay.
So, basically, find one of these dodgy streaming things like 123 Movies or Putlocker or whatever. Right. Find the movie and then play it and basically pause it at the bit you want, screenshot it. Or if you want...
So you splice in all that stuff as you're, like, say you're 20 minutes in and then Jason pops up and this happens. So you just plug that in right away at that moment?
Yeah, so basically I'll be editing it, and as we're talking about it, it'll get to the point where Jason pops up. Or I start editing our show, and in a different screen I have the film playing. And so I know there's bits of the film that I can skip through because we haven't talked about it. And then I'll be listening to it, our show, and it will mention this bit. So now I need to go to that bit in the film, and I'll screenshot it, or I will screen record it and then put that into our video. But that also comes with some issues in terms of copyright.
Uh-huh.
So if you're going to do this at any point, anyone listening, if you're going to take
Yeah.
footage, if you're going to take footage from a film and put it into your YouTube video, there's a couple of things you have to do. Number one, no sound. Do not have any sound on it. Two, and you can do this even in iMovies, you flip the image, you mirror it.
Okay.
So it's the other way around. And if you could speed it up or slow it down, alter it as much as you can so that should you get a copyright claim, you can claim it under, what's it called? The Free Use Act.
Uh-huh.
Where essentially it's every time we've had one, I've sent the same email out, and it basically says like the clip is heavily edited. It does not contain any original audio from the film, or I own all the audio, yada yada yada, and that's worked every time. Every time it's worked.
Okay.
So yeah, you can't just show a movie.
Right. Yeah.
Well, no, some you can. Some films do not have copyright on them, and they're fair game. But yeah, if you're gonna start taking stuff from films, you have to edit that footage. You have to manipulate it in a way that it isn't totally original. And if you're talking over it, even better. Or if you are, when we do it, it takes up the full screen.
Mm-hmm.
But if you can, because it works better because there isn't any room really on our screen to put a little box.
Yeah.
It just wouldn't work as well. But if you can do that as well.
Yeah, I definitely want to start doing more stuff like that. So yeah, I'll probably have to hit you up for some tips at some point if I really get serious about it.
Yeah, the thing is, these streaming services, a lot of them won't let you screen grab anything.
Okay.
Like if you're watching Disney Plus, say on your iPad or your computer, and you go, screenshot, it comes out blank because they have software built in that won't allow that. So if you want to get that, you have to go through some not totally legal avenues. Mm-hmm. There are also websites that you can pay for where you can literally get a film broken down frame by frame. And that's like incredibly clear stills of the film, but you got to pay for that. And we're poor. So
yeah, well, whenever I watch your episodes, I always appreciate that visual aspect to it. So you're doing a good job with that. But definitely something that I want to start doing as well. So to anybody that's listening out there that is thinking about starting a podcast, what would be some tips for them?
Don't expect to make any money.
Of course, that's given.
And yeah, don't go into it thinking I'm gonna, this is gonna be my living or something like that. This isn't OnlyFans. Just
unfortunately, someday.
Yeah, I guess you've got to, you have to like it. You've got to be passionate about what you're talking about.
Yeah, definitely.
And if you start doing it and you realize you don't fucking like it, maybe just don't do it because it is hard work and like I said, you're not going to make any money out of it. So if you're happy to do it in your free time for no money and you still enjoy doing it, then yeah, maybe it's for you. And also, edit yourself for fuck's sake. Because nobody, all these clips that you see of podcasts on TikTok and all that, no one actually talks like that.
Right.
It's all heavily edited. Apart from like professionals like Ben Shapiro, whose entire job is just to talk like a douchebag.
Oh God.
He's had a lot of time to master it.
Sure.
Whereas the average person does not. Yeah, pick a co-host that gets it as well. It's on the same fucking wavelength as you, but that's, Yeah. And also, actually, I'd say the biggest fucking bit of advice, be prepared to fuck up a lot at the beginning.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
Like, just get ready for fucking stuff up. Like,
Audio
accidentally deleting
issues.
entire fucking episodes.
Yeah.
Audio problems. Sitting down to edit your episode and realizing you have nothing. We
Yeah.
once forgot to turn the fucking microphones on. Like, yeah, at the beginning, just be prepared for like loads of fuck ups because you have to learn all this shit. It's not, yeah, you have to learn. I think after I think we recorded maybe 2 or 3 episodes before I ever put anything out, just so that I
It's a
knew
good
it
idea.
wasn't totally awful.
Uh-huh.
And how to like use the equipment and all that stuff. So we had, I think, maybe 2 or 3 episodes. Like, okay, and also it's a good thing to do because in case you don't know when you're going to get to record again. So if you're launching a podcast, you're like, here's an episode, and then next week here's an episode, and then next week here's an episode, as opposed to being here's an episode and then nothing for a month. But
Which I do quite a bit, so
Yeah.
I need to take that advice.
Yeah. But yeah, now we're but we'd recorded this stuff. It's like, okay, I've got it. I've figured out roughly how to use the mics and how to set things up and all that. Now what do I fucking do with it? And this is I didn't know what I was like, how do you upload a podcast? How do you get it to Spotify and stuff like that? This
Right.
is shit that you just have to kind of fucking Google and look up and read and
Yeah,
figure
YouTube
out.
tutorials.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah, many of YouTube tutorials.
yeah, definitely learn your equipment first. Like, just record a conversation. You
Yeah.
know, it doesn't have to be a podcast, and also learning to edit the audio in Audacity, like noise reduction and stuff. Like, we didn't even do any of that for 20 episodes when we started the podcast. So when I listen back to it, sometimes there's just like a little room noise throughout the whole thing.
Yeah.
I'm just like, oh, put noise reduction on it, you fucking idiot. Oh my God.
Yeah. I mean, when we started, we had like our mics cost like $20, and I didn't even have a fucking laptop. I had an iPad, and we had to record it into GarageBand, and it sounds dog shit. And that's how
Yeah.
it sounded for like a year and a half, maybe more, because
Yeah.
we did not have the money to buy even moderately good equipment. And now I can't even fucking listen to it. It sounds so goddamn bad. But again, these are things you just learn, and learn how to use the equipment, learn how to use the software, but also, it's gonna suck at the beginning. like
Yeah.
like we were talking about earlier, last podcast on the left, their first ever episode, fucking garbage. Like most, even like successful YouTube channels, no one's good at it straight away.
Sure. Yeah.
Unless you are already famous and have a producer and an editor and a marketing director and all that stuff,
Yeah.
which we're not.
Not
Oh,
yet.
right. Not yet. No.
Yeah.
Maybe one day. Is there anything else you want to wrap up on? Because I think we're near the ends.
Yeah, I think, almost an hour and 40. I have a quick question for you.
Go,
Who would you like to see play Freddy Krueger?
Kevin Bacon.
No. Come on. Kevin Bacon's too old. If
He's being makeup. He can't.
If-
He can't.
No, I
sing
mean,
his
like-
throw lines when he's in the
No, I mean, like, assuming that they're gonna revitalize the franchise, like, okay, we're gonna new Nightmare on Elm Street series. We want to
Yeah.
put out like 5 movies. You gotta have somebody that's like not. I mean, Kevin Bacon he's got to be getting up there, right? He's at least in his 60s. He's got to be.
Yeah, but you can turn movies around pretty quickly these days.
64. By the way, how
64.
did that rumor get started? This Kevin Bacon as Freddy Krueger talk? It just sort of happened.
I have no idea, but I know that it got back to him, and he said, "Yeah, I'd do it."
Huh.
And since he said, "Yeah, I'd do it," I was like, "Shit, you know what? I can kind of see it." But okay, if he's too old,
Did you see that Devin Sawa was like, I want to play Freddy?
no thanks, Dave.
Yeah, no offense, dude, but I can't see that. Sorry.
Shit. Who's...
So I thought of somebody a few days ago, and I am obsessed with this idea. Do you know who Walton Goggins is?
Yeah, I love Walton Goggins.
Walton Goggins as Freddy Krueger. He's got like the slender frame. He's about the
Yeah.
right height. He can play menacing pretty well.
How old is he now, though?
He's not that old.
I don't think he's like exactly young though.
51.
51.
So-
Yeah, maybe.
The thing is, his teeth are so like iconic. You know, could you
Yeah.
hide the teeth? I'm sure they could, but once I thought about that, like, yeah, I want to see that. Walton Goggins.
Yeah. Or just go completely nuts and just say, fucking Daniel Radcliffe.
Hey, why not?
Because I bet if somebody went up to Daniel Radcliffe and was like, do you want to play Freddy Krueger? He'd be like, yeah, all right. I feel like he's quite... Obviously, he was Harry Potter, but since then, I think, looking at his career, I think he's quite a fearless actor. I think he's someone that will just kind of, if it's interesting, he fucking does it.
Yeah.
Even if it's, like, completely out there. He's like, yeah, sure, fuck it. And I can appreciate that, even though I don't think he's, like, the best fucking actor, but I can appreciate someone that's just like, yeah, fuck it, let's do it.
Did you ever see that movie he did where he played a skinhead?
No.
He was like a Nazi. It was not good, and I didn't buy him.
I can't
as-
imagine it is, no.
Yeah, it was. Yeah,
But yeah, alright, Walton Goggins, yeah, I'll buy it. Yeah, sure.
yeah. Why
I'm
not?
down.
I just wanted to throw that out there, get your opinion. Yeah, so I guess we can go ahead and wrap it up.
I have one last question for you.
Sure.
Just a quick one. What is the worst film you've ever seen? And I mean start to finish. If you walked out, it doesn't count.
Oh man, start to finish. I mean, there. So I just watched Sharks of the Corn a couple of weeks ago, kind of as a joke. You know, it's like one of those sci-fi original piece of shit movies. I mean, I feel like those don't count though. That's kind of like a
Nah,
different.
they're not like...
Yeah, I guess I mean like theatrical release.
Right.
Like actual films, not TV movies.
Well, the only movie I've ever walked out on was Avatar.
I've never seen it.
I was so fucking bored, and I was just... I didn't mean to leave, but I stepped out with my ex-girlfriend to smoke a cigarette, and she was like, do you like this movie? I said, no, not at all. I'm so bored. And there were still like 2 hours to go in the movie, so we were like, you just want to go home? It's like, yeah, fuck it, let's go home. As far as mainstream, God, nothing's really coming to mind.
I've never walked out of a movie.
I thought Malignant was fucking awful, and Doug loves it.
That is a dog shit movie.
Oh, thank God.
Actually, that reminds me of something, because I remember listening to that episode, and if I'm remembering this correctly, you were obviously hating on it, and Doug was liking it, and you were saying, like, because it's cheap, and it's cheesy, and it's all this stuff. And Doug said to you, why is it that you like stuff sort of like, say, like the original Nightmare on Elm Street, which is also cheap and cheesy and all this stuff, but
Sure.
you don't like this? And I think he was trying to get at that the answer was kind of like, it's just nostalgia. It's kind of this rose-tinted glasses. I don't know if you thought about that answer more, but I have a fucking answer to that. And
Wait, you
it's-
just broke up there. What was that last part?
so it's just saying that I don't know if you thought more on that, but I think I know why that you can appreciate old movies like that more than what you can these newer schlocky things.
And why is that? Just
Um,
nostalgia, or?
No, not nostalgia. I mean, nostalgia plays a part, but if you... Malignant was directed by James Wan, right?
Yeah.
James Wan is quite a big name,
Yeah.
and he can quite easily get a pretty decent budget for a movie.
Sure.
So if you look back at, say, like Halloween or even the first Nightmare on Elm Street or any of the Nightmare on Elm Streets from like Friday the 13th, yeah, they're kind of stupid and they look shitty and they're all kind of schlocky and all this. But those like directors, a lot of them didn't know what they were doing, with a cast of people, some of which had never been on a movie set before, with a really small budget. And they kind of did, in my opinion, the best they could with what they had.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas James Wan has a load of fucking money and can hire not A-listers, but actors.
People who can act.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
he chooses to, instead of making something original and the best that he can with what he has, he chooses to make something that is an homage to something that was not that amazing because they had no money. And I think that's the difference, is that those older movies were people doing the best that they could with what they had because they loved making these films, instead of a guy with millions of dollars at his disposal just kind of imitating those kind of films.
Well, speaking on Halloween really quick, I think, yeah, it was a very cheap movie, but it was directed very well by John Carpenter, and the cinematography by Dean Cundey. Like, that movie looks incredible. I still think it's just a beautifully shot movie.
Yeah.
So yeah, like, James Wan has no excuses. But the thing I hate about that movie is James Wan was saying, oh, it's a throwback. It's an homage to Giallo movies. I am still convinced that when James Wan made Malignant, after he was done, he was like, this is a straight up kick-ass movie. This movie's amazing. But then he saw the finished product and was like, this is dog shit. It's a Giallo throwback. I meant to do this. All the horrible acting. I meant to do that. It's like, no, you didn't.
He done a Tommy Wiseau.
Yeah.
After The Room premiered, went, oh yeah, it's a comedy.
Exactly. So when people say like, oh, the acting's meant to be bad, and it's like, no, he presented this as a straight up horror movie. It face planted.
Yeah.
And now he's trying to say, oh, it's a Giallo. I'm not buying it. So,
yeah, no, same. So I guess that answered your question. Malignant's the worst film you've ever seen.
well, it's not the worst movie I've ever seen. The most shocked experience was definitely Halloween Ends. Like,
I'd say that's the most disappointing film. That's the most disappointed I've ever felt from a film.
Yeah, I might have to throw that in there. I mean, I literally lost sleep because of that movie. I was laying in bed and just being like, what the fuck? Was that real? And people are like, hit me up on Instagram asking me about it, and I'm just... It just consumed me. I was just so baffled and shocked by how fucking bad it was. It was like, did they intentionally do this? It's almost like...
Yeah.
I don't know.
Okay. What I always say, the worst film I've ever seen all the way through is The Exorcist Part 2.
I still haven't seen that. I just hear that it's boring
Don't.
I know. I'm like,
It's
well, do I
incredibly
really
Yeah.
want to waste my time?
But it's for a similar reason, is that, The Exorcist, the original, it's a fantastic film. And it wasn't made for a lot of money, but it still had a budget and all that. But for the sequel, they had Richard Donner directing it. What's her name? Louise Fletcher was in it. They had a bigger budget. All these things that should have made it better. And it was fucking dog shit. And it's one of those ones where it's like, there's no excuse for why this film is so bad.
Right.
You can understand movies that it's the director's first movie, they don't have a big budget, all these other elements, but there's just no excuse for why that film is so bad. Did you see Verotica, the Danzig movie?
I did not, no.
That's
I want to, though.
That's fucking dreadful. Actually quite funny. It's so bad it's funny. But
Yeah.
it was Danzig. It's the first time he ever made a film. And so I don't think anyone thought it would be that fucking bad. But I guess he kind of gets a bit of a pass. Like, okay, try again next time.
Yeah.
Whereas Richard Donner was a fucking Oscar-nominated director when he made The Exorcist Part 2. Like, no. No
Hey,
excuse for it.
Exorcist Part 3, however,
Love it.
incredible movie, super
Yeah.
underrated.
Yeah, need to see that again. Actually, I haven't watched that in a long time.
And speaking of Freddy Krueger, I always thought that Brad Dourif back in the day would have made a great Freddy Krueger.
Yeah, he was a great actor. Yeah. Definitely. Yeah. Cool.
And I wanted to mention M. Night Shyamalan movies because those, as far as mainstream movies, some of his movies, they might be up there as like worst fucking movies I've ever seen. The Happening.
I've never seen it. All of the ones
Dude,
that
you got
everyone
to.
fucking hates, like The Happening and that fucking Will Smith one, After Earth or whatever, or
I never saw that.
The Village or Old, whatever it is. I haven't seen any of them. In fact, the only M. Night Shyamalan films I've seen are Sixth Sense and Unbreakable.
Oh man, dude,
And those,
The Happening transcends being a bad movie. It's one of my favorite comedies. It's so it's so awful. I could watch it right now and have a great time. Like I get so much enjoyment out of it.
Alright, I'm gonna have to check that out.
Yeah, and I recently watched The Visit for the first time the other night after hearing so many people say, you know what, it's actually really good. And I beg to differ. I thought it was a piece of shit. And oh man, I could talk forever about M. Night Shyamalan movies.
I still maintain Unbreakable's a great film though.
I haven't seen it in a long time, but it was pretty good. Same with Sixth Sense.
Yeah, the thing is with Sixth Sense, that once you know the ending, it's one of those.
Yeah.
But I loved Unbreakable. It's a great film. It's almost like it's like a superhero movie essentially.
Yeah. All right, Finn. Anything else, man? We're almost at 2 hours. This was a lot of fun. Long episode, but I enjoyed it.
Yeah, it's gone 1 a.m. here. So
Holy shit.
all right, thank you very much. Thanks for showing up.
Hey, man. Happy to do it. This was a lot of fun. I feel like it's been a long time coming, and I'll come back
for
anytime.
Sure. Yeah, we'll have to do this again. We'll try and have some more prep next time. This was pretty last minute.
This was literally, hey, what are you doing tonight? Want to record an episode? So
Yeah,
this is what we did. Yeah.
Yeah, next time we'll try and we'll figure something out that we're going to talk about. Fuck, maybe Mr. Smith will be here as well.
Yeah, that would be great. Hopefully I can bring Doug on sometime.
Awesome. Well, like a fucking Royal Rumble of podcasts.
Fuck yeah.
Yeah. All right, cool. Thanks, everybody. If you're still listening. If you're not, well, you won't hear this. And I hope you enjoyed it. Hope you learned something about podcasting. Probably not, yeah.
And hopefully I didn't come off as just bitching and moaning the whole time. I love the podcast. I love doing it, but we just thought it would be interesting to talk about the other side of podcasting that nobody talks about. So
yeah, which is a lot of bitching and moaning.
But hey, that's anything in life, I guess.
Yeah, it's like that's just what it is. It is what it is. Like
Yeah.
I said, if we didn't enjoy it, we wouldn't be doing it. So
Exactly.
All right, cool. Ciao.
All right.
Well, thank you all for coming here tonight and drinking all of my booze. No, really. Please leave. The party's over. Get out.